I'm going to tell you a story about a bad day, a really bad day, that ended 2 careers and changed policy in a major city police department. But it's not the story you think it is, because it's not about revenge. It's about a black woman, realizing that the rank she'd earned, the literal 5 stars she wore, meant absolutely nothing. The second she put on a hood, it all went down in a sterile, concrete tomb of a parking garage, the Meridian Complex, just outside D.C., where the air always smells like stale exhaust and damp money. The woman at the center of this storm was Brigadier General Vivian Steele. Look, if you're briefing the chairman of the Joint Chiefs on cyber warfare before lunch, you're not messing around. Vivian had just wrapped up a 10-hour highly classified session at the National Security Bureau's Black Site Annex. She was spent, but her mind was still running the scenarios. You know that feeling when your body has clocked out, but your brain is still in the fight? She'd changed out of her service uniform, the kind of uniform that commands attention, and respect, into sweatpants, a dark blue hoodie, and some comfortable, broken-in sneakers. She just wanted her damn car, her black, nondescript government-leased SUV, and a 45-minute drive home to silence. She gets to the 3rd level, keys in hand, rain dripping from the exhaust vents, and that's when the silence breaks. Hands up. Let me see your hands. It wasn't a question, it was a command, barked from the darkness. Vivian turned slowly. 2 figures, 2 officers, silhouetted against the weak garage lights, guns drawn, flashlights, blinding her. The tall one, Officer Chet Halverson, was all aggressive posture and tight jaw, a 15-year veteran who looked like he'd swallowed a lot of small-town pride. His partner, Officer Ricky Vance, was young, maybe mid-20s, nervous, constantly shifting his weight, eyes wide like a deer. "Ma'am, step away from the vehicle." "Now," Vance shouted, the nervousness making his voice pitch too high. Vivian raised her hands, palms open. "Officers, I assure you, I am simply accessing my vehicle. My name is ... Shut up and move," Halverson snapped, taking a step forward. "We got a call about a suspicious individual breaking into cars. You fit the description?" She blinked. Once, slowly. "I fit the description." "What description was that?" "Black woman in a public space near expensive vehicles." She tried again, calmly, professionally, hoping protocol would kick in. "I understand. I am Brigadier General Vivian Steele, and I just came from the NSB Annex across the street. My ID is in my pocket. I can retrieve it, ... There was 0 pause, 0 time for verification, 0 hesitation. Halverson rushed her. He grabbed her left wrist, twisted it violently behind her back. Violently, and the next thing she felt was the cold, rough concrete pillar against her cheek. Her secured laptop bag hit the ground with a soft, expensive thud. The metal cuffs bit deep, tight, raw against the bone. She didn't scream, didn't struggle. She just felt this hot flash of pure, absolute disbelief. Is this really happening? The absolute worst part, her DOD-issued clearance badge, a thick plastic card with her picture, her rank, and the huge federal emblem, slipped right out of her loose coat pocket and landed directly next to Halverson's boot. He didn't even look. Down Vance, the nervous one, muttered something that made the rage inside her finally boil over. "Save it, lady. People like you always think they can talk their way out of anything. People like me." Vivian didn't lash out. She didn't yell. That's what they wanted, wasn't it? To provoke a reaction that justified their initial assumption? But you don't get to be a general by losing control. You get there by knowing the rule book better than the people trying to enforce it. She took a deep breath, the sound rasping slightly in the quiet garage, and she looked over her shoulder, meeting Vance's eyes. "What exactly do you mean by that?" she asked, her voice low, measured, and more dangerous than any shout. He refused to answer. Halverson was already digging through her bag, rifling through her papers. "What's this? Encrypted device?" "It is my secured, military-issued laptop. Serial tagged. It is federal property. You are committing a felony, officer," she stated. Halverson scoffed. "Lady, you are in no position to issue warnings." Vivian didn't argue. She realized this wasn't a misunderstanding of identity. It was a demonstration of control. They had made up their minds the second they saw her, and nothing she said would change the narrative they'd already written. So she stopped talking to them and started talking to the right people, still cuffed. She rotated her wrist just slightly and gently tapped the bezel of her simple-looking watch. It wasn't a smartwatch, not really. It was a secure comms device, designed to look like a standard field timepiece. One tap. Soft, barely perceptible vibration confirmed it. The signal was sent. Not to 911. Not to a lawyer. It was a panic. Alert routed directly to the Central Command Liaison Desk, 3 miles away. Her biometrics, her encrypted ID, and precise GPS location were now broadcasting on a highly secure channel. Someone was listening, and she knew exactly who. She lifted her chin. "You have exactly 9 minutes, Officer Halverson," she said, her voice now completely devoid of emotion. 9 minutes before this parking garage gets very, very crowded. Halverson, buoyed by his own arrogance, just tightened the cuffs one last notch. He was the authority here, was the one holding the gun and the cuffs. He was the veteran, who knew how things worked on the street. To understand why Vivian was so calm, you have to know where she came from. Not the General Steele who briefed the president, but the little girl from Triumph, Georgia, a town that used to call itself Little Harlem but rarely made the news. Her grandfather worked the cotton fields, her father ran a small HVAC business, and prayed his kids would never have to be soldiers. But Vivian wanted to be a soldier. She saw injustice. She decided she would understand the system and the rules better than anyone else who tried to use them against her. She didn't just make it. She'd burn the path, fluent in 3 languages, strategic, ruthless when necessary. She was 39 when she led Operation Shadowkeep in the Black CIA mission, taught in war colleges now. None of that protected her. From the 2 men in front of her who saw nothing but a criminal in a black hoodie, asterisk as Halverson continued his illegal search. Vance was getting jittery. He kept glancing at the security cameras mounted overhead. "Sarge, should we run her ID anyway?" Vance mumbled, his fear starting to outweigh his eagerness to please his partner. "Nah." Halverson waved him off with a dismissive hand. "If she's lying, she'll trip up. They always do. These government types are all the same." Vivian stared straight ahead at the concrete. "You know what else always trips people up, officer? Body cameras." Vance physically shifted. "Sarge, are our cams rolling? Standard protocol, right?" "Course they are, kid. Standard protocol." Halverson lied, but his voice was thin. He knew, everyone knew, the cams had a tendency to malfunction when an officer was making. "An assumption? Good," Vivian continued, her voice gaining strength. "Then the NSB won't have to pull the surveillance footage alone. Your own department's audio, including your partner's assessment of people like me, will be part of the final federal report." That word, federal. It hung in the air, heavy and solid. Halverson's hands slowed. He started to feel that cold, creeping doubt. He tried to laugh it off, but it sounded brittle. "You think we're supposed to believe you're some big shot?" "General." Vivian turned her head slightly, enough to make eye contact with the towering officer. "I was the commanding officer on Operation Shadowkeep. There are exactly 4 people in this entire state with access to the materials on that laptop, and 2 of them are secretaries of defense." "You don't have to believe it, Officer Halverson," she said, using his name, watching him flinch. "I don't care if you believe it. I care that you detained me without identifying yourselves. You touched federal property without probable cause. And you failed to follow basic procedure for confirming identity. I care that you just assaulted a sitting brigadier general in a federal facility." Vance's eyes were darting between Vivian and his partner. "Sarge, maybe we should just check the ID now. No harm, right? Don't get soft on me, Vance. She's bluffing." Halverson hissed, his pride too big to swallow. Vivian closed her eyes. The 9 minutes were almost up, and then the sound. Footsteps, not the heavy echoing gait of patrol officers, but something else. Fast, precise, synchronized boots, clicking. On the concrete, 3 men in sharp charcoal suits appeared around the corner of the far stairwell. Behind them, Two uniformed military police officers flanked a dark, unmarked command vehicle with tinted windows. It looked like an extraction. Team from a movie, and it was here for her. Vivian opened her eyes and let out a slow, quiet breath. Took them long enough, she murmured, more to herself than to the stunned officers. Vance had gone paper white. Halverson stood ramrod straight, trying to look authoritative, but his posture was screaming panic. One of the men in suits held up a leather wallet with a gold shield. Special Agent Davis, National Security Bureau. Step away from the detainee immediately. Vance practically leaped backward, tripping over Vivian's laptop bag. Halverson froze, his face a mask of disbelief. Agent Davis ignored him. He moved straight. To Vivian, his movements quick and professional. General Steele, ma'am. He unlocked the cuffs in a series of swift clicks. Vivian flexed her wrists. The skin was red, raw, and already bruising where the metal had pressed into the bone. She didn't wince. She didn't rub them. She just held her gaze on Halverson, who still hadn't moved a muscle. Agent Davis turned to the two officers, his voice flat and cold. Did she resist? Vance shook his head furiously. No, sir. She complied. Did she identify herself? Vance nodded. Yes, sir. She said she was a general. Agent Davis stepped closer to Halverson. And you didn't think to verify that before putting hands on her? Halverson just stared, trying desperately to rewind the last 9 minutes. Vivian spoke over the silence. It was never about verification, Agent. It was about control. Davis nodded, understanding her completely. The military police retrieved her laptop and phone. I need a complete chain of custody established for everything they touched, Vivian commanded, her voice back to the steady, authoritative tone of a briefing officer. Fingerprints, radio logs, dash cam, body cam, time stamps, audio records, all of it. A JAG officer is already en route. Halverson finally broke, his voice a pathetic squeak. This ... This is some kind of joke, right? Vivian looked him dead in. The I won last time? You're right, Officer Halverson. It is a joke, she said, leaning slightly toward him, except the punchline is your career. She walked past them, without a backward glance, her head held high, the red marks on her wrists the only physical evidence of the struggle. Inside the unmarked NSB vehicle, communications officer handed her a secure phone. Joint Command is on the line, ma'am. This is General Steele. We have a situation, she said into the phone, her voice the same, perfect, professional calm. I want a full debrief, logged and routed through legal. I don't want apologies. I want a protocol. The aftermath was brutal and swift. Within 48 hours, the NSB report backed by the unedited body cam footage, which did end up being recovered, was delivered to the local police chief. It was damning. No resistance. No raised voice. Just a general warning them of their unlawful conduct. And 2 officers ignoring it out of pride and prejudice. Halverson, the one with the ego, was terminated immediately. Vance, the nervous follower, was given the option to resign quietly or face disciplinary review. He resigned. He had a wife and a new baby coming. He hadn't been the one to tighten the cuffs, but he hadn't been the one to speak up. Either Vivian didn't take any victory laps. She didn't call a press conference. She released one single statement that went viral because of its brutal, quiet dignity. It was only 6 sentences long. I did not ask for special treatment. I asked to be seen. I complied. Still, I was handcuffed, searched, and humiliated for simply existing. This is not just about me. This is about how many people don't get the chance to make the call that changes the outcome. I did. They didn't. A few weeks later, she received a handwritten letter at her home. No return address. Inside, 1 sheet of paper. General Steele. I froze. I followed when I should have questioned. Failed to act. Didn't see you. I didn't see the uniform or the rank, and for that, I am deeply, profoundly sorry. I will carry this for the rest of my life, Ricky Vance. She folded the letter and put it in her desk drawer next to her father's old service pins. She never replied. Vivian. Never filed a civil suit. She never gave an exclusive interview. Instead, she worked quietly behind the scenes. policy in that jurisdiction changed. New mandatory diversity training was introduced, and critically, a third-party review board was implemented for all use of force cases. One evening, months later, General Steele found herself back in the Meridian Complex garage. Same column, same paint scuffs, same camera overhead. No one shouted at her. No one asked her to explain herself. She stared at the spot for a long time, then pulled out her phone and snapped a photo. Not for evidence, not for social media, just for her. That spot wasn't where someone disrespected her. It was where she didn't let them define her. She wrote a note in her journal that night, something she rarely did. I did everything right. I followed orders. I earned rank. I served, and still they didn't see me. But I saw them. And all. Remember, Vivian Steele taught us that day that power isn't always loud. It isn't always visible until someone tries to take it away. It's the quiet knowledge that you have the right answers. It's the facts and the protocol on your side. And that the truth will speak louder than anything you say. So here's the question I want you to wrestle with. What do you do when no one sees you for who you are? Do you lash out and confirm their bias? Or do you hold the line, knowing your restraint and your evidence will eventually force them to look? And for those watching who wear a badge or hold a position of authority, I want you to tell me in the comments, are you listening or are you just looking? Because the next Vivian Steele might not have a secured panic button. It might not have that kind of clearance. It might not have the 9 minutes it takes for help to arrive. Let me know your thoughts down below.